The year is 1999. You're a little American child and you're looking around the local Toys R Us or GameStop or what have you to see what wares they have on offer. Now, if you're anything like me, you are 1 year old and not sentient yet. The date is 9/9/1999, and Sega's brand new console hits the scene. The Dreamcast is named after two of the most powerful forces on Earth, dreams in cast form. You spend a measly $199 on this beast, and also however much Sonic Adventure costs, which was probably $4. Now see, you're used to other 3D platforms at this time, such as Tomba and Tomba 2, but you have never seen a game like this before. This is Sonic Adventure, and it rocked. It had an awesome soundtrack, fun stages, the best voice acting in the world. It's all I ever could have hoped for. I never played the Dreamcast version. I played DX like a baby because I was only 5. I feel like when it comes to Sonic games, specifically when people defend Sonic games, fans have been conditioned to always put a big, I know it's not the best, but before they praise it. And I get it. Look, I've been a hostage of Sega since I was 5. I love titles like Sonic, Samba de Amigo, Knights, Yakuza, Jet Set Radio, Sakura Wars, so on and so forth. I get it. Sega is not the best household to have grown up in, but man, those highs sure were high. I love Sonic. I love Sonic Adventure, but clowns online always love to throw around the phrase, Sonic had a rough transition into 3D. And look, is Adventure perfect? No, but there's so much about it that I love, and I commend it for everything it tried to do, and I feel the same way about Shenmue now that I actually think about it. Either way, I wanted to do this video for a long time on the history of Sonic Adventure's development, as well as what I liked about Adventure. And if you're unfamiliar with the game, just know you can play as 6 characters alongside Sonic, but I'm only going to focus on him because I'm lazy and I just want to talk about Sonic. But before I could talk about Sonic Adventure, I need to talk about this video's sponsor, Sonic X-Treme. Sonic X-Treme was a cancelled Sonic game that was in development for the Sega Saturn, being developed by the American branch of Sega, which had the most unfortunate name of Sega Technical Institute, aka STI. The relationship between Sega of America and Sega of Japan wasn't so hot, with constant bickering between them, and many decisions that proved catastrophic, such as the surprise launch of the Saturn in America. There's conflicting arguments as to whether or not Hayao Nakayama, the then Japanese president of Sega of Japan, actually liked Sega of America, so as it stands, I'll just say their relationship was complicated to say the least. The relationship wasn't the only strained thing, because the development of X-Treme was also pretty turbulent. It was originally going to be on the Sega 32X, standing alongside the zenith of the video game medium, Knuckles Chaotix, but then development switched to the Saturn. STI consisted of Western devs, and they were really doing their best given the situation at home. I mean, you had both their parents in different countries fighting over each other, and they're just trying to make a game for God's sake. Oh, and they also had to deal with this guy. You know those memes that go around that are like, childhood is idolizing Batman, adulthood is idolizing the Joker, or whatever? Yeah, see, for me, childhood is loving Yuji Naka. Adulthood is realizing that Yuji Naka once pulled up to the American developers behind Geist Force, a cancelled Dreamcast game, spoke in Japanese, assuming that no one could understand him, spoilers, they could, and straight up said that he was planning on firing all the American employees except for a single engineer once the game released, and was also looking to see what parts of the game's engine could be repurposed for Sonic. He also made Balan Wonderworld, so I don't really like him that much. Yuji Naka was part of the reason why X-Treme suffered so heavily, as he straight up refused to allow STI to use the 3D engine that Sonic teams utilized for Knights, which was a pre-existing Saturn game. His unwillingness to let them use the engine would pretty much result in a domino effect, where no flagship Sonic title was dropped for the Saturn, The Saturn itself flopped due to a lack of a flagship Sonic game, and Sega would be on their hands and knees begging for forgiveness when it came to the Dreamcast. It's one thing to release bad games, but actively sabotaging other developers and even your own company due to your own massive ego is just gross, and no wonder the guy is in jail for insider trading. But either way, I brought up Sonic X-Treme because I think it's important to know the context behind the game's development and the key players involved. Sega was actively trying to have a 3D Sonic game done, but then dudes like Yuji Naka didn't want the Americans hogging the glory. And I legitimately have to give the utmost credit to the devs of Sonic X-Treme because it seemed like they went through absolute hell working on this title. Chris Coffin, the lead programmer of the title, suffered from severe pneumonia while working on the game, and the lead designer, Chris Sen, was told that he had 6 months to live. He's alive, thank God, but no project is worth sacrificing your life over, especially one where it seems like the whole universe is against you. When you combine the team's health struggles alongside the disputes between Sega of America and Sega of Japan, all on top of the medium of 3D video games being relatively new at the time, it's no wonder that this game never saw the light of day, and it's really a shame because it did look interesting to say the least. At this point, Sonic had been strictly 2D, save for games like 3D Blast, so the devs were testing the water to see what exactly worked out. People fail to realize that Sonic is not a platformer in the same sense as games like Mario or Crash Bandicoot, where in the case of Sonic, speed and momentum are some of the key players. So at the time, the devs really had to figure out how exactly they could translate the 2D Sonic levels and games into a 3D environment. You had to have sprawling levels with all sorts of different paths, all while having a fast sense of speed. So it's not as simple as just, okay, let's just take Sonic and boom, would have been 3D and you're good. There's a lot of trial and error involved into figuring out what exactly worked best for Sonic, whether it be this kind of asymmetric weirdo view that they use for X-Treme, or how Sonic Adventure was initially planned to be an RPG. It sounds crazy for the 2D iterations of a game to be one genre and for it to shift over when it goes 3D, but honestly it just reminded me a lot of Metroid Prime. The Metroid series up until that point only consisted of 2D side-scrollers, so having Prime be a first-person shooter really divided a lot of fans at the time. The franchise itself was pretty revolutionary, and it set the groundwork for adventure titles for decades to come, with classic franchises like Castlevania taking inspiration and subsequently coining the term Metroidvania, following the release of Symphony of the Night. Metroid Prime itself carried all the hallmarks of standard Metroid design, but was now in the first-person format, which the game prepares you for in the opening cutscene. It plays the all-too-familiar tune as Samus's ship touches base on the space pirate ship, following a distress beacon that was sent out. She's confident in her stature as she departs, showcasing the 3D model of Samus for the first time. She's kind of scanning the area to figure out what's going on before she relaxes her posture and realizes, oh, it's nothing too crazy. From there, the camera kind of swoops down and places you inside her head, literally. Sound doesn't really travel in space, but the sound effects here still rock, so it doesn't really matter. And if you're playing on GameCube, you get used to the controls pretty quickly. It's kind of weird, kind of tanky, but if you're playing the Wii or the remastered versions, then you're good to go with the pointer controls or the dual stick aiming. Upon getting used to it, moving feels pretty great, and combat is aided with a lock-on feature, which you could utilize from the beginning on these switches here to open up these gates to progress. The game also exposes you to the scan feature for the first time in order to open up this area here, and it's great too because it gets you used to scanning everything and everything for more lore and information, which is all optional of course. At the same time, the compelling nature of the mystery of what exactly happened to the residents of this ship kind of compels you to keep scanning everything and figure out what exactly is going on, especially as you scan corpses of things that do not look like they belong anywhere. You blast a couple of baddies and you finally make your way to the Parasite Queen, which isn't really that tough of a boss fight, especially given the fact that Samus is decked out with her charge beam and her missiles, but you gotta move around her shields, and it makes you realize that you can't really just blast everything to death in this game. It requires some strategic thinking and makes you, the player, realize, oh okay, even the boss fights have some elements of puzzles. Either way, after you beat up the Parasite Queen, it's time for the whole ship to come crumbling down, and so you go into your little morph ball and you roll away, kinda like Sonic. Sonic's design saw an overhaul and adventure, and he's no longer a little chunky boy, but instead skinnier and much more mature. At least according to Yuji Uekawa. Pretty much everyone was redesigned in order to appeal to the West, with Sonic's green eyes being in reference to the series' iconic Green Hill Zone. Tails' eyes were made blue because he loves Sonic, and Knuckles' eyes are purple because he loves Big. It all comes together. Adventure started formal development in April of 1997, with it later releasing in Japan of December of 1998. Unfortunately, I was only 5 months old and also American, so I couldn't go to the store that day to get a copy, but it's really crazy to think that this game had a development time of a little under 2 years. And really, they got a lot of work done in that small time period, which is really impressive. The game was being developed alongside the Dreamcast, which led to changes in the console's hardware due to requests from the dev team, such as Iizuka asking for more RAM on the Dreamcast to accommodate for Adventure. Iizuka also wanted to accommodate for those weirdos that want to see Sonic with a gun, and he added E102 Gamma, a robot made by Eggman who has to go around blasting his bros. Big is also there too, for the sole purpose of winding down the player, which makes sense, because playing these segments as a kid made me want to eat paint chips until I grew up and realized it really was nowhere near as bad as I once thought. A lot of love was really put into this game, with the main Sonic Team crew going around South America and visiting historical joints to snap photos for reference in the game. Chaos as a villain pretty much exists to showcase the insane power of the Dreamcast, being able to showcase these really cool water effects that weren't possible before. The additional hardware also made for bigger and cooler levels, but the devs also needed to figure out how exactly to make Sonic work in a 3D space. Back in the 1400s, Sonic could jump on an enemy to beat them, but that's kinda tricky to pull off in a 3D environment, which resulted in the creation of the homing attack. It's a simple but effective solution, and it kinda reminds me of Z-targeting in Ocarina of Time. Items in Zelda games are often used to help you reach unexplored areas, and that mantra was carried over to Sonic Adventure, with Sonic and his boys being able to pick up power-ups that aid you in the hub world and the levels. Ocarina of Time and pretty much every Zelda game places a lot of importance onto music, and that's also carried into Adventure. Whereas past Sonic games relied on, pop and funk and Michael Jackson, Adventure went for a zany, rock and roll, butt rock, Guilty Gear type beat, and I adore it. I adore it so much. I've used Sonic stage songs in past videos, and they're all so great. They're so groovy, dude. I love them. The voice acting for everyone is great too. It's terrible, and the line readings are so off, and Tails sounds like an actual infant, but it's charming in the way that Shenmue is charming. Also, if you were a weirdo child like me, you probably played the game in Japanese because it sounded cooler and you didn't understand what anyone was saying. Point is, a lot of love was put into this game, and I just want to share that love with you guys, and I hope I did, as I talked about the game's development for the past however many minutes this went on for, and now I'm actually going to talk about the game. Let's take a look.
The game is fun.
Yeah, this game still rocks. The game opens up with Sonic whacking Chaos in the head while Eggman watches and goes, "Haha, you don't know what's in store for you, you little." Then we cut to our boy chilling on the beach as usual, watching Tails crash into the beach and go, "Oh, I gotta go get him now, I guess." You got these great NPCs, not just here, but throughout the entire game, which I think is a remnant of the game attempting to be an RPG, because you have all these characters with new dialogue that's updated very frequently. Like, in between events, in between stages, these characters have all sorts of dialogue, arcs, etc. You can watch Cybershell's video on it. He did a really good job just talking about the dialogue, but it's really interesting to see the different things that these guys get up to. I love how they look. I love the models. They have that peak 90s aesthetic with their faces that are just textures, and they're so cute. I love the polygonal models. I love how Sonic looks so stubby compared to them. I like how this lady calls him Mr. Sonic. Anyways, we start off with Emerald Coast, and this song just feels like going to Nirvana, both the band and the place and the idea. It's such a great summertime feeling game, and right now as of recording it is the middle of winter, but I still felt so warm playing through this stage, and this game as a whole really. The music is just bumping the entire game, bro. You're getting chased by this orca and you're like, whoa, oh, that was intense, and then you go to the lighthouse and you hear that dun 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 dun, and it's like, oh my god, dude, this game is so fun. I love this. You got this melancholy part of the song here where you're just like, oh man, should I go save Tails? Like, I don't know. But then it gets uplifting. It's like, yeah, I should go save Tails. He's dying on the beach. I gotta go help him. The whole game got music like this, dude. It's not just Sonic. I mean, yeah, they do reuse the same stage themes, but everyone got great themes to them, and I just love the music in this game so much. You rescue Tails, and you're like, wow, Tails, why did you crash into the plane? And then Tails is just like, oh yeah, I had a nuke attached to my plane for energy, and Sonic's just like, cool, let's go back to your workshop, and then Eggman's there. One really cute thing about this game is even if you're playing as a different character who fights the same boss, there are different cutscenes and dialogue, so I like to imagine it as each character having their own interpretation of the same events where they put themselves in the limelight. You give Eggman a kiss on the head, and I have to say, it's really cool of the creators to actually make all of Eggman's vehicles in this game be named after natural predators of hedgehogs. You got the Hornet, the Viper, the Carrier, the Walker, Beta. Anyways, after you get that done, you go head to Windy Valley, and wow, it's just another song that makes you feel nostalgic for times gone, and then you get sucked into a tornado, and you're like, oh, okay. But then, boom, there you go, you get thrown out of the volcano, and then all of a sudden, everything's back and happy and cheery, and then Tails is running around, and he shoves his butt in the camera when you win. At this point, you're probably used to the camera, which is not perfect. I will not defend the camera, but they tried. They did try. They even had this NPC say, yeah, if the camera messes up, it's a feature, don't worry about it. But Sonic himself and pretty much everyone just kind of control like a dream, if I'm being 100% honest. I've played every 3D Sonic game since Adventure dropped, and he still feels just super unique and fluid here. I think he feels much tighter in Adventure 2, which is totally fine, but I love how loose he feels in Adventure 1, and I love the spin dash being used to sequence break all throughout the game. It is so fun, and it's really just a further proof that, like, hey, these guys kind of did something right here. Homing attack doesn't always work, but when it does work, which is most of the time, it's fine, you know, it's a great way of propelling yourself forward and also latching onto enemies or items nearby. All the stages have optional paths that you could thread so that when you're going through repeat playthroughs, it never feels the same. And if I'm being honest, on this playthrough, I went through a bunch of paths I've never went through when I was a kid. And the cool thing is that these paths reward you with items, shortcuts, extra lives, etc. And it made me really happy playing this like 20-something years later, and I'm like, oh wow, there's still stuff about this game that I didn't know about. Alright, where do we leave Sonic? Oh, he's gambling again. Yeah, some jokester thought it'd be really funny to leave a Chaos Emerald in the casino, and then they buy the Chaos Emerald, and then Eggman just puts them to sleep, I guess, and steals it. And then Sonic goes, oh man, gee, I gotta go get the Ice Key now and go to Ice Capsule. Yeah, I mean, you don't play this game for the story, unless you're playing Gamma's story, which is unironically really great, and I don't know why Sega doesn't do stuff like this for Sonic as often. I mean, they've been doing it recently because Frontiers has a relatively darker story, so I am looking forward to that. But Gamma's story is pretty dark, and I could talk about it, but I won't because I want to talk about Sonic. Anyways, here Ice Cap Zone, I skipped a bunch of the stage by spin dashing, and the fact that the game allows you to do that makes me really happy. And look, we're going snowboarding now, woo! I used to replay this segment all the time as a kid. I love how what you're doing and the stage syncs up with the music. I wonder how long it took for them to actually like get that to work. It seemed like a lot of effort, but it means a lot to me. After that mess, we go find Knuckles and we give him a kiss on the lips, and then Chaos 4, I hate this one. Oh, stupid dumb shark in a lake. And then there's Sky Chase. This I tried to see if I could avoid taking damage by hiding in the corner. It didn't work. I was playing this one-handed because I just pulled a Makima in that Nikkei got us a victory game, and I was trying to use her, and I kept getting shot at, so the game distracted. Either way, you're chilling on the plane with Tails, and then Eggman shoots you down, and you crash on the beach, and the small child is like, oh my god. And Sonic is like, oh, where's Tails? And then you end up in Twinkle Park, which is great. I love it. Oh, and Amy's there too, because the only way you can get into Twinkle Park is if you have a cute girl by your side. And sadly, Knuckles is not available, so you have to go for Amy. Whenever I did this stage as a kid, I would always go out of my way to get the blue car, because Sonic is blue, so if he goes in the blue car, he goes faster. I made that up, but you know, anything is possible with the power of the god. See, on my first run here, I got the black car, and I died right here, so that shows that God wasn't on my side. But once I got the blue car, everything worked out for me. And then you go through a little Mario Kart-esque segment that I'm really bad at because I'm not good at peppering the brake, and oh my god, we're on a roller coaster. Look at this happy music. Oh my god, look at this environment. Adventure just has super creative stages, like all around. Like I remember all of these stages like the back of my hand. You start off in a beach and then like a kind of windy plain, and then you get sent to casino. Then okay, Ice Zone, sure, but then Twinkle Park, that's like an amusement park, and then the next stage, Speed Highway. Ooh boy. Now this is Sonic Adventure's baby. This is the one they always use in the trailers, they use this one in Generations. This is the one that people know Sonic Adventure for. And it's well deserved if I'm being honest. This stage is one of my favorites in the entire game. It's all about speed and branching paths and running around buildings. You got this bumping music in the background as the cops are chasing you, because of course they are. Then you just zoom down this building and it's going like Mach 5, and then you fumble like I do and it doesn't go in sync with the music, and you get really mad and then you exit, but then you get the happy music and you're like, okay, this is fine. I still remember so many like childhood emotions playing through this game, just loving all this stuff and like being bombarded with sensory overload. I have ADHD, I have a lot of problems, so maybe that's why I like Sonic so much, but oh man, I still love it as an adult. Anyways, the train conductors are on strike, and then you're like, oh my god, where's Amy? And then Amy got kidnapped by a robot, and then train conductors are like, oh, my fault. So they allow you to go back to Mystic Ruins, and then they allow you to also go to Red Canyon, and this one was really weird as a kid. They got a monkey in a cage that's guarding the entrance, and you gotta get the power of Allah in order to break open the cage and go past it, which I still don't understand why you can't just homing attack the cage, but whatever, it doesn't matter. Red Canyon's weird because you got like, you know, these wide open spaces you can spin dash around. You go inside like this volcano, and then there's like this freaky music, and then there's like little dudes being kept prisoner in cages, and you're like, what? Huh? Anyways, you don't even have time to think about that because you exit the canyon, and then bada bing bada boom, here comes Tails, and we're going to the egg carrier that carries Eggman, and now we are going to get Amy. Yeah, here's another Sky Chase segment. Well, I hid in the corner again, and I was still on my phone trying to figure out how Makima worked, so I ended up getting shot a lot. I got distracted, you can see here, if I get shot by the laser. Tails was like, oh, Sonic, I forgot to tell you, buddy. Don't get mad. Then you guys crash on the deck of the egg carrier, but it's okay, you guys get to go to Sky Deck, and you have this really great cutscene with Sonic and Tails.
Oh, wow! It's changed shape. Did you see that?
Darn! This makes it harder for us to get to the bridge.
I hate it when he doesn't listen.
After that, Sonic reminds you where you gotta go, and then bada bing, we're back to Sky Deck, baby, and this stage is a little hellish, but you get used to it. I mean, look, like, this stage should annoy me when the music is so grooving, and when using the spin dash is so fun, I can't be mad at it. The game tries to pull something where it's like, oh look, we're going below the sky or whatever, you gotta hang on. I just said no and just spin dash through the entire stage, so it's fine. Also, I don't think I mentioned this, and we're like 22 minutes into the video, but I have been playing on a modded version of the Steam release of this game, which makes the game look like the Dreamcast version. So I recommend you go for that, because I think aesthetically, the Dreamcast version tops the GameCube version any day of the week. Anyways, after we go around destroying the ship, Sonic reunites with Amy, and then he sees her being held captive by Gamma, and Sonic's like, I'm gonna kill you so bad. Then Amy's like, no, and then Sonic's like, fine. Also, Big is here too, because his little boy Froggy got eaten by Chaos, and Chaos now looks like this, which is whatever. You can use the Ancient Light to like do double damage to him. I love this here, because Eggman's fleeing from the ship, which is however many feet up in the air, and Sonic's like, I'm gonna go after him and like crush my legs and get splatted in the ancient ruins. This line here by Sonic really resonates with me. After that, this magic little ball that's been following us around this entire game tells us, hey, check out these ancient ruins. And Sonic's like, okay, and then you get sent to Lost World. This one also gave me a lot of trouble when I was younger, but as a mature adult, I'm able to go through this and no problem. Just spin dash a lot. Really, for the entire game, when you're playing as Sonic, just spin dash. You can just skip a bunch of stuff. Of course, you need to know where everything is in order to effectively, skip it, but hey, if you can do it, you can do it. I always remember the snake portion here, because when I was a kid, my dad took me to Canal Street in Manhattan, and he bought me like the little wooden crocodile that reminded me a lot of Snake. I know the two are not even related in the slightest, but I love my dad. Anyways, after destroying these ancient ruins, Sonic is like, whoa, cool paintings, and he's teleported to like this hellscape where you got little Chow that are burning alive. Yeah, I should probably talk about these little dudes. So these are Chow, and they are really, really funny. I've spent thousands of hours playing Sonic Adventure 2 for the Chow Garden, and I will gladly do that again. But sadly, I don't feel the same way about Sonic Adventure's Chow Garden, which is fine. I mean, they were testing the waters, so it's totally cool. I have footage here when I was streaming with my wife, and I didn't realize that my capture footage recorded Discord audio, so you can have their reaction to my Chow here.
Look at it. They've never had a thought in their life. What happened? Oh no! Save her! Can't swim!
Anyways, yeah, there's some sort of connection between Chow and Chaos, specifically Chaos being a guardian protective to Chow. And the echidnas were like, we gotta just kill all these little dudes, man. And to call, this one nice echidna was like, no, you can't kill these Chow for the Master Emerald. And her dad's just like, bet. And then they invoke the fury of chaos, and you're just like, aw, man. After that, Sonic's just like, where am I? Before he sees Eggman heading off to Final Egg, and he's just like, I am so done, I am so tired. And you go check out the little egg carrier that's crash landed in the Mystic Ruins, and it's cool, it's really cool. Check out all the stuff they got. They got Metal Sonic in it too. I never got this puddle as a kid, I still don't. I just click on the buttons and pray to God, and it works out for me every time, so maybe that'll apply to my life as well. Final Egg got this banging track all throughout, and it has another track in the middle that goes back to the original. And all throughout the stage, I was schmooving, I was grooving. This part in the middle is really cool because you're essentially going down, as opposed to other Sonic stages where you're just going up or you're going horizontally. But it's a little annoying because you can't just jump straight down because there's kill planes here, so if you go, you just die. Either way, after heading to the bottom of the egg carrier, you meet up with our boy, our beloved Eggman and his Egg Viper. This fight took me a lot longer than I care to admit, if I'm being honest, and I have a lot of footage just from me dying to this fight on multiple occasions, and I'll show some of it, but I am quite angry, I am quite peeved. Especially since right at the end, after you drain him of all his health, Eggman decides to do a kamikaze attack and try to take down the floor with you. I've played the classic Sonic games, so I'm used to the final bosses being relatively difficult, and this one isn't really difficult compared to them. But even then, I hate this portion. But after finally putting an end to Eggman, Sonic is free to do whatever the hell he was doing before, which, by looking at this end card screen, is just chilling. And that's the end of Sonic's story, but as I mentioned, there's 5 other characters, each with their own stories, and I'm too lazy to go through, but you kinda get the picture with this game. There is a lot of variety here, and there's a lot of different aspects about this game that I really, really love. Of course, the Sonic stages are my favorite, but I've always been a sucker of like these little hub worlds that you could run around in. I mean, they don't serve a purpose if you think about it. I mean, Sonic Adventure 2 got rid of them, and subsequent Sonic games don't really have hub worlds unless you count like Unleashed or Frontiers to an extent. But they really make the game feel a lot more charming. I love talking to these random NPCs and figuring out what's going on with them. I love just wandering around and everyone seems to know Sonic. It's all unnecessary, but it means everything to me. So I love it. And if you love it too, then you know, I love you, I guess. Even if I'm not big on the big sections, I do understand where the devs were coming from in an attempt to balance the game out and make it not overwhelming for people who are just going through the Sonic stuff. Gamma too, like I joke about him, but he was made with the best of intentions to accommodate for players who wanted a shooting experience with Sonic for some reason. Tails is just funny, his existence is really funny, his story is pretty sweet though. It's him trying to be his own person and not live in Sonic's shadow, which they continue in Frontiers. I love that game. Knuckles is his own mess of treasure hunting, but at the very least in this one you could get the emeralds in any order. And then there's Amy, who's running away from Zero the entire time. The game accumulates in this really great final chapter with Supersonic and all this stuff, and it plays Open Your Heart, and I love it, I still love it to this day. But I just love this game in general, and I was worried when I was recording footage for this game that I would have fallen out of love with it, but no, I still love it a lot. Sonic will always be the butt of jokes, and that's something I kind of accepted as both a Sonic fan and a Sega fan, but I still love him, I still love his games. I'm not going to blindly defend them when I know that they have flaws, but I can still love them all the same, can't I? There's no perfect game, there's no perfect series, there's no perfect anything, but Sonic gets a brunt of a lot of hate online, and it's just become commonplace to just make fun of him, and he's worth a lot more than that. I know he's not a person, he's a game character from a franchise made by a company whose sole purpose is to make money, but that game happened to make up a lot of my childhood, so I love it a lot, so what can you do? All in all, I love Sonic Adventure. It's not perfect, but by God, I really do enjoy the game, and I hope this video made you see it in a different light. Nothing crazy, but made you think, oh, the game has some worth after all. I apparently want to make this video since July of 2021, which was a year before I even made my Katamari video, so that's how long this has been cooking in my brain, so whoops. Either way, thank you guys so much for watching. I'm going to read out the patrons' names right here. I thank you guys for supporting me and helping me live. Special thanks goes to Joe Papa 73, Sour Lolita, Borpelos Vunny, Real Setlery, Tai Tai, Vento, C Crowns, Kiwi, Sneaky the New Guy, V, Andrew, Audrey, Braystar, Sogon, Angong, Amatiru Misu, Logan, Xiaonaru, Jiva, and Chelsea. Thank you guys so much for watching. Love you all. My name's Ash. It's been an honor talking about Sonic for the past half hour, and I hope you guys take it easy. See you guys next time.